Hi, everybody. My name's Elizabeth.
I'm Justin.
And this is Late Night Review. This week, this is going to be our Halloween special. So be prepared. It might be a little disturbing. We're actually going to be talking about black-eyed children. So if you don't know who or what that is, stay tuned. So have you ever heard of black-eyed children?
Not before I met you. I never have.
I didn't hear about it till about 4 years ago, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was pretty disturbed when I heard about it. So we're going to check out some clips. You've never seen anything, so it's all going to be brand new to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, yes, I've never seen any of these.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
Yes.
Sorry. Okay. So this one is top 5. 5 black-eyed children caught on camera. I'll put the link for this video so you can check it out on your own outside of this.
Black-eyed children. The creator of the channel Fantastic Daily says that he is obsessed with finding evidence that proves the existence of so-called black-eyed children.
That's frightening.
As such, he has studied hours of alleged footage of these beings.
Yeah,
he says that he believes that he has
that real quick.
proves the existence of so-called black-eyed children. As such, he has studied.
Wow, quite a bit here. I don't know why they did this actual screenshot here.
Hours of alleged footage of these beings. He says that he believes that he has found a sound isolated in lower audio frequencies that can actually be used to summon black-eyed children. As an experiment, he set up his laptop camera to record overnight while continuously playing this low-frequency tone in hopes that he would actually lure a black-eyed child to his door and catch the incident on camera.
Well, he might lure something.
On the first night, his laptop camera recorded nothing. On the second night, something activated his motion-sensitive outdoor light. But again, there was nothing on camera. Night 3, nothing. Night 4, still nothing appeared. But then, very late on night 5, something shocking happened.
That just looks like a reflection.
As the strange visitor left, the investigator claims that he was awoken by the sound of movement outside and got up to check.
I don't know.
Hello?
There was no one there, but the gate to the house had been left open. Eerily enough, the man lives in a secluded area, only accessible via a long unpaved road through the woods. So any visitor at any time would be uncommon. But he says that this visitor was absolutely terrifying.
I mean, that just looks inserted into the video.
A creepy photobomb.
He's gonna just summon things there. He doesn't have I'm not gonna say he doesn't have the right to be afraid. But I'm just
he should be afraid.
Well, he's like, oh my gosh. I said, what did you think was going to pop up if you're playing the Black-Eyed Children song?
I don't know. It just seemed too it just didn't seem real to me.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and take it
just
for
pretend,
what he said.
yeah,
just
sure.
Pretend that that's what happened and just be like, well, what? Like, you got what you were summoning.
Right.
You know? Anyway. And, then he goes outside. I'm just like, no.
Chinese-Canadian musician Milo LV posted a simple Instagram video of her and a friend hanging out by the pool.
Hey guys, it's super hot in Vancouver today, and me and Joanna are just waiting for our friend who is super late to come today. And if you guys see this video, take a look at how nice.
Now, I don't know what she was babbling about there. But after watching the video, her fans flooded her comment section, claiming that they saw something creepy in the background of the video.
If you guys see...
Oh, you know what? Interesting here. Look, see how this... It kind of looks like it comes down. Like, do you see this distortion here from that to that?
Mm-hmm.
You think it could just be a kid?
Well... To be honest, it could be many, many things. What I'm more concerned with is that someone was staring at this so hard that they saw that.
Right.
That freaky kid is who
the real problem
I'm concerned with that kid right now.
The obsessed
Not
fan.
not the whatever that is in the back. Yeah. So
this looks just more like ghostly to me.
Yeah, it's
like you can see a clear here. Some type of figure here. I have such problems with the stuff that's made now, or like the videos you see now of ghosts and stuff, or even aliens, like UFOs being caught on camera, because editing software and stuff is just available to everybody, even on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's just like,
yeah.
Prior to phones, I feel like you had more of a shot of a realistic or authentic video.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
Anyway, on another thing, if that was a black-eyed child, which that reminds me, I don't think that was. It would have to be more spirit of something, a ghost of something, than a black-eyed child, because the black-eyed children come to the person, knock on the door, and they always ask, like, can I come in?
Yeah.
You know, and they always also say, I can't just come in, you have to invite me in.
Right.
Which I'm going to put a pin on that, and we'll talk about that after this video footage.
What? Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Something in the road. For number 3, we again go back to the YouTube channel Fantastic Daily, whose creator, a self-proclaimed black-eyed kid investigator, had a strange recorded encounter on his front porch. This next footage took place a week after the first video. The investigator said that after being more than a little freaked out by his first recording, he had stopped playing the audio tone that he had used in hopes of attracting the black-eyed kids to his home. But it might have been a little too late. One night, as he was driving along the secluded trail that leads to his home, he thought he saw someone walk across the road in front of his car.
Why was he filming as he was driving?
He stopped the vehicle and started filming with his cell phone.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Gets out.
Question and answer.
Of course. This guy just...
Typical horror movie.
He should be in a Hollywood horror movie.
Unfortunately, he didn't really catch anything on camera. At least that's what he thought. After returning to his home, he decided to check through the footage recorded on his phone.
Bet you money.
What he found chilled him to the core.
That right there. See that?
Yeah.
Although it's hard to tell in the dark, it looks like someone walking along beside the road.
That looks like
the
the
dark
same
brush,
thing that was in
and
his
unnoticed.
That
as
looks,
the
that looks more
film.
childlike.
More childlike, black-eyed, like.
Than his last.
Yeah,
capture.
that one actually is a touch freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely that there. A little freaky, you know.
So is this one of the black-eyed children? Is it just someone out for a bizarre night stroll
Right
in
there,
the
it
dark
looks like
woods?
a gnome or something.
Right?
Look at that with the long nose.
It looks like a long nose, but I'm like.
And like, look at that. It looks like a big nose or a long nose with a big mouth or something. That looks like some sort of something that you'd see in a fairy tale movie or.
I'm gonna tell you what
Disney
this.
movie.
Yeah, like a witch
Yeah.
or something. You know what this kind of looks like
Pinocchio.
too? This kind of looks like somebody with a black jacket on, and then like a beanie under the jacket. See this like white part. But this also looks like two different faces, like, you know, those things where it's two different faces in one. Here's like one face, but then you see this, and this looks like a separate face, like two dark eyes here. But then this also looks like two eyes, so it looks like two people.
Cam kids. The cameras are set up to trigger and snap photos when there is any movement. They're usually used to track wildlife in remote wooded areas. In this particular shot, posted online, the trail cam seems to have spotted 2 deer. But they were not alone. What looks to be a small girl in a white gown can be seen in the photo. Many believe this photo to be a black-eyed child captured on camera.
She doesn't look
This is not the only time that a trail camera has allegedly captured a black-eyed child roaming alone. The black-eyed child phenomenon is not only relegated to North America. There have been multiple sightings in England as well. In Yorkshire, England, we find another account of a black-eyed child. A woman named Hannah Butler took a picture of what she believes to be a black-eyed girl in Hesselforshire Woods. Hannah snapped this picture back in 2013. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the subscribe button.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy the video, but I appreciate all this hard work to put that together.
So we're going to check out this particular clip. It gives an explanation of where the black-eyed children started.
Okay.
And this is a clip from Monsters in... So just out of that clip there, just real quick version of what black-eyed children are. What do you think of that, just that clip? Did you get much out of it?
Yeah, just to me, it doesn't look or feel or sound like they're benevolent. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, I mean, right off the bat, the way they're portraying them with the music and all that sort of stuff is one thing, but their actions that they're portraying that they're taking is another. So, but both point towards being, someone you wouldn't want in your car
Right. Or in your home.
or in your home.
So if you look this black-eyed children up, it comes up on Wikipedia, and I'll just read what it said. According to Wikipedia, tabloid coverage of the creatures claim they have existed since the 1980s. It's believed, though, that the legend originated from 1996, postings written by Texas reporter Brian Bethel on a ghost-related mailing list. He alleged encounters with black-eyed kids. He described encountering two such children in Abilene, Texas in 1996. The story seems to always be similar in that they are kids with completely blacked out eyes. They always go to someone's home or vehicle, they knock on the door and then insist upon being led inside the home or into the car. Whoever encounters them feels overwhelmed with dread. These children are about 6 to 16 years of age who look normal outside of the eyes, of course. It says they sometimes have outdated clothing, but otherwise they look normal or like normal kids. The story with Bethel goes as such. He had been in a parking lot in the late evening. He had stopped to write a check, and while doing so, two young boys tapped on his driver's window. Bethel rolled the window down and immediately felt a soul-wrecking fear, but didn't know why. One of the boys said they were going to watch a movie but forgot their money at home and wanted Bethel to give them a ride. They told him it wouldn't take long and they didn't have a gun. Bethel noticed when he broke eye contact with them, he became overcome with fear. It was at that point that their eyes became completely blacked out. The older one got frustrated with Bethel when he made excuses to not give them a ride, and they couldn't get into the car unless Bethel said they could. Bethel then flew out of the parking lot. So according to that, that's like the origination story, but like it said, existed since the 1980s. What do you think of that, the origination story there?
Well, it just doesn't explain much. It's just
Like
a
the first
recitation
encounter?
of what took place, but that's freaky. I don't have any way to distinguish it from, just a fairy tale. And so while we've obviously established on this channel that we believe in um, there being extraterrestrial beings and things of that nature, spiritual beings, if you want to call them that, etc., etc., I don't see why it wouldn't be possible for there to be some level of extraterrestrial being, sort of like a man in black, only a child for whatever reason. I don't have any problem believing that that exists. However, I don't want to know for sure because I don't want an experience.
I don't want to
I
experience
don't
anything
want
like
an
that.
experience, so we'll just let it linger out there in the I don't know box. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I watched, oddly enough, if anybody has ever watched the show Ancient Aliens, usually what's the like main line they're always saying?
That's
They're
not
not theorists. They say
yes.
yes.
It's
They
always
always
yes.
yes. So oddly
It's
enough,
never no. If they pose that question, it's gonna be yes.
I think we saw it like once or twice where they actually said no.
I
Do
don't
you remember that? We're like, oh my gosh, they said no.
I don't.
Okay, well, anyway, so on Ancient Aliens, they actually have an episode talking about star children.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody's or if you're familiar with star children. Do you know much about them?
Oh,
The term star children.
This term, absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so on this episode, they actually were talking about star children, and then they started talking about black-eyed children. I couldn't believe this was on an episode of Ancient Aliens. And their theory why black-eyed children are appearing is to contrast star children.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know much about star children, they talk about them being like children that are being born now, that have like extrasensory abilities or are advanced in some way. So they talk about kids that like get degrees like by 10,
Mm-hmm.
like doctoral degrees,
Mhm.
or other kids who have like psychic abilities, and also like some kids that have the ability to say their first word by 2 weeks. So they're saying that they are like positive, like inserts into our planet to
Mhm.
help humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And according to
Ancient
aliens,
astronaut theorists.
they feel that these black-eyed children that people are starting to see are like the counterbalance to
Mhm.
God's good being put into the world. And so obviously
Through the star children.
yes, through
Yeah.
the star children, and that now like evil is putting in these black-eyed children to kind of counterbalance,
The yin to yang.
yeah,
Yeah.
to kind of throw off the extra good that's being put onto
Mhm.
our planet. And I thought that was a pretty interesting theory because I'd never heard that before.
Well,
What do you think of that?
if ancient astronaut theorists say it's true, then I believe it. No, I do think that there's if anything, you can see that the world that I guess the world at large is symbiotic. Things play off one another, and there seems to be balance to everything. It just seems to be a natural program running in this in this place. So that being the case, if there is going to be star children who are a positive to society, then it makes sense that there's going to be something that's inserted that's a negative to society to counter that. And so I don't know that for sure that's the black-eyed children, but
Sure.
it sounds like
Plausible.
it sounds logical according to
Yeah.
that narrative.
Yes. What would you say if I told you I know someone who said they've encountered a black-eyed child?
Really?
Yes. Today I'm going to be interviewing, do you like to say your name?
Victoria.
And she actually is going to be telling us of an account she had with a black-eyed child.
Yes.
So we're going to start that interview now.
So I was 19. I had just had my first daughter. She was like maybe a few weeks old. Yeah, so we lived in like this little apartment complex.
And were you like on a first level or second level?
First, it was all first
Okay.
level, except the building in front. And it was just me, my husband was at work, and I was just hanging out on the couch with the baby. It was in Ohio.
Okay.
It was winter time. It was like snowing outside. Not a ton of snow, but like a little bit of snow. It was, I want to say morning, but not like early morning. It was like maybe in between like morning time and afternoon time.
Was
No,
it just like
I
a
was
normal
just-
day?
It was a normal day. I was just sitting on the couch with the baby. And I was probably watching TV. Like, you can't do much with a kid around you.
Right. Yeah. Then I'm just going to let you tell the story.
Okay. All right. So I was sitting at home, just minding my own business. And I heard a knock at the door, and I was like, this is strange. Why would somebody be knocking? Like, we didn't have very many people around, so it was either Mark's mom or a neighbor, which rarely ever came over. So I answered the door, and there's this kid standing there. And when I say kid, I mean like 7, maybe 8 years old. She had a winter coat on. She had her hood on. Her hair was down. I want to say her hair was like a blonde color, but it was 12 years ago.
Okay.
And she knocked on the door, and I kind of was like, what is happening here? Like, looked out, like no one was with her. No one was around. And just having had a kid, I was kind of like, there's no reason that a child should be out in the winter.
Sure.
At this age, just walking around. So she was like, no one's at home. And I was like, what do you mean? And she was like, nobody's at my house. I was home alone. So I came out looking for my brother. He was supposed to be watching me. And I was kind of like, that's strange. Why would somebody just leave a kid at home alone? Right. So
yeah.
I was like even more concerned. And then she asked if she could come in because it was cold outside. So I let her come in. And of course I wasn't like looking at her face like, hey, like right away. I was like concerned, kind of looking around outside, hoping someone would like run by like, hey, sister, whatever.
Right.
And she sat on the couch and she kind of just sat there, and I was like asking her questions, and then she looked up at me, and I was like, wow, Like, for blonde hair, you have really dark, like, I didn't say it, but I was like, she has really dark eyes, super dark eyes. Like, I've never, ever seen something like that before. And I asked her if she wanted to call her mom. And she was like, I don't remember the phone number. So then I was like, do you know your brother's number? And she was like, he doesn't have a phone. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do here. So I went out and I knocked on the neighbor's door. It was right next to us.
Okay.
And I asked her to come out, and I was like, do you know this kid? Like, have you ever seen her before? Do you know where she lives or who she is or anything like that? And she came into the house, and she was like, oh my gosh, honey, like, what are you doing out here alone? And the little girl was just like, my brother left me home alone. And
so just repeat it.
Yeah, and it was like the same exact thing she said to me, basically. And I was kind of like, this is super, super strange.
They tend to speak in a very cold manner and repeat phrases frequently, as if they've memorized certain key things to say and repeat.
Like, I was uncomfortable. Like,
were you feeling like fearful?
I wouldn't say I was
anything
scared, but I was like concerned and like kind of like, what is happening? Like,
okay.
Why is this happening in my life? Like, I was just sitting on the couch with my baby, and now I'm dealing with some random kid in my house.
So some people are gonna probably want to know why you left her in your house with your baby.
I didn't.
Oh, okay.
So when I say, like, these apartments were so small, when I say that I literally knocked on the door, I could literally reach over and knock on the door. Like, the apartments were like doors next to each other.
Okay.
And the couch was right next to me.
Okay.
So the baby was probably sleeping on the couch. I mean, I would have to like really recall, but she was definitely sleeping. I mean, she was 2 weeks old. She always slept. I swear I did not leave her alone with my child. And when my neighbor came out, I was just like, come in here. So she came in, and both of us were just kind of like, what do we do here? Like, should I call the cops? Like, what's going to happen? And then the little girl kind of just stood up and was like, all right, I'm going to go home now. And I was like, but nobody's home. And she was like, it's okay. I'm sure my brother will be back soon. And then she left. And I never saw her again, like, ever in the neighborhood. And I lived there for, I would say, at least a year in that apartment.
Did you see where she went when she left?
When she left, so there's like it was like a long stretch, almost like hotel rooms. And then there was like a bigger building that had a bunch of hotels. It was like a farm town. So like everybody knew everybody knew everything that happened there. And there's the bigger building. So when she left, she went out the door between the two buildings, and then she went to the left and then was just gone. Okay. But I also didn't like go out like,
sure.
I was kind of just like, this is so weird.
What's happening? What did your neighbor say at that point?
She would just looked at me and she was like, that was strange. And I was like, yeah, I kind of feel like I should call the police. Not because I was like scared of something coming back at me, but it was more like that I just let this kid leave by themselves. But she also wasn't like, no, I'll stay here. Like, she was like, all right, I'm going to go home now. Like, and was like, just left, like adamant, just know what she's doing, did it. And I was kind of just like, what just happened?
How long do you think this whole thing transpired? Like 5 minutes over a course?
No, I would say she was in my house for maybe 15 minutes.
Some time.
Yeah. Like,
what did she talk about the whole time she was
I just
there?
kept like, where does your mom work? What's your mom's name? Like that kind of stuff. And she was just like, I don't remember if she gave me a name, but she was like, I don't know where my mom works. I don't know my mom's phone number. Like, I was like, what about your brother? And she's like, he doesn't have a phone. And I was kind of just like, I don't know, like, what to do here. And like, calling the cops felt right, but at the same time it felt wrong. I was just kind of like, I don't know what to do here. I kind of wanted to solve the issue and like make sure she was warm and like not out in the cold by herself and like not home alone. But when she just was like, all right, I'm gonna go, and just left, I was kind of like, why did you knock on my door then?
Right.
Like, why did you come to my house?
And then your door it wasn't like you, I mean, it was an apartment, like it was a real.
She could have knocked on anybody else's door.
Had you known of or heard of black-eyed children before this encounter?
Not before it, no. So I didn't actually hear about black-eyed children until, I would say maybe like 4 years after that happened. Like, my husband originally talked to me about it. I was just kind of like, that's so weird. Like, what does that mean? And then I looked up some stories. So the one story that sticks in my memory is I looked up a story about a man and a woman. They were like an older couple, and she had two kids knock at their door. The wife let them in. They sat on the couch, and she said immediately she had like this overwhelming sense of dread
Yes,
that like
it's a
people were in her
common.
house.
Yes.
And one of them was like, "Can I go to the bathroom, or can we use your phone to call our mom or something like that? We're waiting for our mom to pick us up." And they ended up going into the bathroom together in the story that I read, and like the lights flickered, and they came out and were like, "All right, we got to go," and left in a hurry. And when they went to leave, there was a car outside, and there was like a person dressed in all black, and the kids got in the car, and then they left, and they never heard from them again.
Okay.
And then that same month, the husband went to the hospital because he had a bloody nose a bunch of times and ended up being diagnosed with like some type of rare cancer.
Okay.
So that's the only, like, that's the most significant story I've heard after. It was like 4 or 5 years after, I would say.
Sometime.
Yeah.
Did it alter any of your behavior after that incident?
Yeah, I would say it did a little bit. Not like a whole, I'm not generally like a paranoid person about about stuff like that. But at the same time, being in such a small town and knowing like everyone around and seeing that for the first time, that child, it was more of like this is so strange that this happened. I like called my husband and was like, "Dude, you're not gonna believe what happened." Like,
what did he say when
he
you
was
called
like,
him?
What do you mean? And I was like, it was so weird. And like, I was in like disbelief and almost concerned that I just let some little kid in my house and they ended up having these crazy dark eyes. And she so oddly was just like, "All right, I'm going to go." And it was like, I was definitely uncomfortable afterwards. And then, of course, I'm like keeping an eye out, like around the apartment complex. Like, what if she comes back? Like, what? Like, I don't know who she was or where she came from or what
Sure.
her intentions were. Why did she even want to come over? Like,
Yeah, and it's just so strange that she picks like
Yeah.
and you were
and I was home alone with
Yeah.
my baby. Like, that's
Even
scary.
yeah, even weirder. Did you have any kind of incidents happen after this? Like, was it just like this happened, it was strange, and that was that? Or like the story you were just describing of this person going to the hospital? I mean, did anything like that happen to you guys? Or to you, should I say?
So it didn't happen to me, but it happened to my husband. So it was the same exact week. And I can't, if I went back on like my documents and stuff from the incident that happened with him, I would be able to tell you probably the exact day that this happened to me. But the strangest thing, so my husband woke up that Friday and he worked maybe 2 blocks from where we lived.
Okay.
So he took my car, and normally he doesn't drive. He normally walks to work, but it was cold outside. There was snow on the ground. So he decided to drive to go pick up his paycheck. And when he was there, he drove around the building. And when he drove, he slid into somebody else's car. One of the gentlemen who was really like well known in the town was like, "Oh, that's my truck." And he was like, "Hey, I slid into it. I'm sorry. Like, I'll fix it. We didn't have insurance." Like, it was a whole huge mess. And Mark ended up getting arrested.
Oh, goodness.
It was like it was like the worst and best month of my life because we just had our daughter. And then he gets into this car accident the same week that happened, goes to jail. We have to bail him out, pay all this money. It was just like a mess. That week was a mess after that little girl came to my house.
Since that happened, have you or a family member, anyone you know, like a friend or something, have they ever encountered a black-eyed child?
Yes. So
was this prior? Like
No.
you just didn't know?
After that incident, nothing strange happened for years. Like, I would say when my husband and I first moved to New Mexico, probably right when we moved here in 2014, we went to Walmart, and these 2 kids, they looked maybe like 16 or 17, black eyes, like the blackest eyes, like sure as, sorry.
You're fine.
Their eyes were black.
So in comparison to the girl you saw,
yes,
like
so
hers were
like
weirdly
very dark.
Okay.
But these kids had like straight black eyes. Like, you know those people that wear the black contacts?
Yes.
Like that.
No white in there.
No white.
Okay.
Like insane. Like Mark and I looked at each other like,
okay,
we know what this is. Like,
so tell us about that if you don't mind.
Okay, so
what time of day was this? Or night?
It was daytime.
Okay.
It was daytime. Maybe evening. I really don't remember, but it was light outside. Like it was light enough that I could see what they were. I could see their physical features. I could see all that.
Okay.
So we were walking out of Walmart, and these two kids were like, "Hey, can you give us a ride?" And Mark and I kind of like looked at each other, and we're like, "What's happening here?" Like they were like, "We're looking for our parents, and I think they left us here." So we just wanted to see if we could get a ride. And me and Mark were kind of just... But they were, like, pushy. Like, walked to the car next to us. Like, tried to open the doors. And Mark and I were like, yeah, no, we can't. Sorry, we're going somewhere. Like, we got something to do.
Okay.
And I kind of just let Mark do it because I have a really hard time being mean to people.
Yeah.
When they're in need. Obviously, I let a little girl into my house. Anyways, I kind of just was, like... That time, it was terrifying. Like,
that time.
Having seen their eyes and them being what they were, and, like, they were wearing dark clothes. It was a girl and a boy. The girl had, like, really long dark hair. And Mark actually said something. He was like, well, maybe it's the same girl from when, like, you were younger
in Ohio.
Yeah, in Ohio. And I was like, no. And he was like, people can change their hair color. And I was just like, that's a little far-fetched. But I don't know.
Was that like a connection he made right away?
No, he actually... So we were talking about this, I want to say the other day.
Okay.
And he was like, it could have been the same girl coming back.
So from the time they walked up to you guys when you're leaving the store, they followed you to your vehicle and then started insisting.
Yeah, like they were like pushing to get a ride. Like even holding the door handle, like waiting for Mark to unlock the door.
Wow, that's...
Yeah.
And then you said they're about how old?
I would say like 16 or 17.
Okay.
I mean, they were teenagers. You never know anymore. Everybody looks like...
I know,
20.
I'm so horrible at judging age now.
It's bad.
Yeah. Okay. And when you guys were in the store prior to this, did you feel at any point like that you were being watched?
No, I didn't, but I'm a lot more carefree when I'm like out in public. Like Mark's the one that's like, oh, something's not right.
Okay.
I mean, I have that like internal judgment, but his is like much stronger than mine.
And so then once you guys encountered these children and they kept insisting that they wanted to be, given a ride, and so Mark just finally chased them away
he was just kind of like, no, like we're not taking you anywhere.
And so what was it that it took for them to finally go?
I don't know. They just, I guess, got fed up that he
kept saying no.
Yeah, I mean, because from what I've read, they have to be invited.
Yes.
In.
That's what yes.
It's more of like even if he would have unlocked the door, I don't think they would have opened the door, but they were like ready in case he said yes.
Okay. And did you guys then leave, or did you go in and tell an associate?
We left.
Okay.
We were like, nope. We're out. It was not something that I wanted. It was not a comfortable situation to be in by any means.
Looking at their clothing compared to the girl that you had seen before in Ohio, was there any kind of similarities? Did you notice any kind of similarities?
Yeah, I mean, they had, like, their hoods on. Like, so the girl had long, dark hair. So, you know how when you put a hood on and your hair sticks out?
Yes.
And you have long hair. So it was like that. Him, I think he had a black baseball cap on, but it was the right way. It wasn't, like, backwards or anything. But other than that, they just look like grungy teenagers, man.
And like skin tone, a lot of people have described them being very pale.
They were definitely like not super white, but they were definitely lighter skinned.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
so was the little girl. Pale.
But the strange thing is she had like a blonde hair.
Yeah, she had blonde hair,
which was out of the ordinary, but very interesting. Like once you saw the eyes, was it immediate?
The older kids?
Sorry, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, Mark and I looked at each other like, no, this is not.
And did you discuss afterwards, like, that scared me?
It was more like okay, don't want to go through that again. Like, we were like genuinely like, what is going on in our life that this occurred? Like,
yes,
I hate that feeling. It's horrible.
Did you notice anything, looking back now, is there any kind of similarities or like feelings that are taking place in your life from that time to the second time? Like, were you super stressed in life or something? Was life just going along just as normal as can be?
I mean, we had just, so maybe a little bit of stress because we had just moved here. I had a 2-month-old. Like, our second daughter was 2 months old when we moved here. Okay. So we literally moved here. Being in that situation, I just had a daughter. The first time she was 2 weeks old. This time I had a 2-month-old.
Okay, so that's very similar.
Like life stress.
The habits at Walmart after that, did you guys change your habits? Do you still just go into Walmart just another day, or did it alter any of your behaviors after that experience?
I mean, so that experience, along with like other general experiences that everybody has in life, I definitely more aware of my surroundings when I go into the grocery store. Like, before, I was like, just walk through, do whatever I gotta do. Now I'm more like, I look at people's faces, like I make eye contact with people. It's just and it's not that I make eye contact with people to look for a black-eyed kid, but like, I've already had it happen. I want to say twice. The first time felt like it. Definitely felt like it. The second time definitely was it. Like, I don't want to encounter that again. But at the same time, do I?
I hope not. What a question. You're like, do I?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Don't. Yeah, you don't.
At all.
You don't want to do
like,
that.
No.
What do you think black-eyed children are?
I don't know. I feel like they're aliens. Like, right?
Why do you feel that they're aliens? Like, well, they could be on the spiritual side.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
Evil.
I don't know. I feel a little bit like they are evil, though, because these stories that you see, and then like mine maybe wasn't as like extreme and nobody died, but like it was a stressful week after that point, and
after the Ohio experience.
Yeah, like it felt like there was this evil little girl on my couch. But at the same time, I just became a new parent, and I'm like, I feel bad for this kid. So it's like hard to weigh that.
Did you notice any kind of strange or like unfortunate events happen after the experience or the run-in at Walmart?
Not the second time, no. Not at Walmart, no. But we also didn't let them in our car.
True, you didn't let them into your home.
I was like...
Or yeah.
Thank God we didn't.
Maybe that's a connection. Right.
So anything could have happened if I allowed them in my car. And like, where did they want to go? Like,
right.
They didn't even say, like, they were just like, we're looking for our mom. We can't find her. Can you give us a ride? It was not like, hey, can you give us a ride home? Or can you give us a ride here? It was like, can you give us a ride?
Yeah, that's
And we were kind
of
like, no. Not going to happen. We know what you are.
Interesting. Yeah, I would hope you don't come across those ever again.
No.
But according to ancient astronaut theorists...
No.
I just like saying that because, they always say that.
The guy with
they
the
say
hair.
Yes. Yeah. He looks like he's slowly being abducted.
He does.
So according to ancient aliens, they're saying that, have you ever heard of star children?
Yes.
Okay. So they believe that star children are like God's good being put into the world by like these kids who have these extra abilities. Mm-hmm. And so they think, this is their theory, which I think was a pretty good theory. They think it's evil's counterbalance to God's extra. That's exactly what Justin said.
I mean, good and evil.
So that's why you're getting these children, but to totally try to knock off the extra good that's coming in.
I could definitely, I mean.
But even with saying that.
Even still, how do they look like us? And they just have black eyes.
Right. I don't think they're alien. I don't think they're alien.
I don't know what they are. But
I don't feel like Ancient Aliens was even like concluding that they're aliens.
I don't know what they are. All I know is I don't want them in my life. At all.
If you felt a dread with them to me, that tells me evil.
There's something wrong. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
people give off energies, and whether it's their people or not, their energy was not good.
And that's a big key there
Huge.
to inform
If
you
you don't
of
have
what.
good energy, I don't want it.
Yeah. Let me ask you a couple questions of what Justin wanted to ask. So he said, having kids of your own and thus knowing how a child 6 to 16 typically act, how their facial expressions typically are, how did the black-eyed children differ?
So the first time, I would never expect a 7 or 8-year-old to just be like, okay, I'm gonna go now. Like, knowing that they're with an adult and where they said they were, there's no adult there. So, like, she wasn't, like, worried. Like, if, I'm sorry, I lost my daughter and not that I lost my daughter, but my daughter got separated from us in the middle school when we were doing orientation with our older girls. And I could hear her screaming down the hall, like, no! And this little girl, and she's 7, right? My daughter's 7. And this little girl was, like, not worried, really. It was just like, I was home alone. My brother left, and my mom's at work, and I was just there by myself. So I'm looking for him. But it was, like, very, almost, like, monotone. And no 7-year-old, I mean, maybe weird 7-year-olds now. But no 7-year-old is,
no
like,
expression.
I'm fine by myself walking down the street. Like, my daughter would be terrified if somebody left her home alone.
Sure. As a normal person would be.
Like,
did you feel that maybe after you had talked to your neighbor that bringing in that extra person was what caused her to want to leave?
Possibly. I mean, and my neighbor she didn't believe in, like, stuff like, it's hard because she was very, like, old school, like, oh, this is how it is, period. So when I was, like, grabbed her and she, like, came in, she was just like, oh, honey, like, talking to the kid like it's a kid that's lost.
Yeah.
And she, like, didn't question anything afterwards. She wasn't, like, concerned that her eyes were dark or, like, that she was leaving. She didn't think it was abnormal. So it was like, am I crazy?
Like,
am I the crazy one? Because it was a little strange how this 7-year-old, first of all, not mature enough to be like, hey, I'm going to go now and just see myself out. Like, it was weird. So
Right.
6, 7-year-olds don't act
because
like
she
that.
was cold.
Yeah, they
right?
don't act like that. It was cold outside. She didn't have gloves on.
And she was asking you to be inside.
Yeah.
She was cold.
She was like, can I come in? I'm cold. And then she was just like, hey, bye.
Yeah.
Weird.
That is
not
strange.
a typical 7-year-old.
Okay, and then about the other two that you ran into, judging based off of your experience with your own children.
I mean, my kids aren't 16 yet, but my niece is getting there. I feel like teenagers are pushy. So, like, the pushiness and the, like, not really begging, but, like, trying to convince us to let them in the car is normal, but they had something about them that wasn't normal. Like, they didn't, like, talk to each other or, like, goof around like teenagers do, right? Like, when you're, like, people, I don't know, I'm a humorous person, so I make jokes often, and, like, they weren't about, like...
It was just...
But I also didn't make jokes because I was, like, immediately like, whoa.
Right.
So... No, I wouldn't say they acted like a normal teenager.
Okay.
It's so hard to work through and process.
Yeah, it's okay, yeah. And so
they were not normal for their age, or the age they appeared to be.
Okay. And so then he also asked, what word best describes your thoughts during or after the experience?
I was super concerned the first time.
Okay.
Because I just let this little kid in my house, and, like, I feel kids to be innocent. I mean, not anymore with the way the world's going, but I feel that, like, kids have this innocence about them, and she displayed that at first, but then, like, it kind of went away. So then I was more like, okay, this is weird. Why did this just happen? Like, a little ominous, maybe.
Okay.
The second time, it was like total dread. Like,
Okay.
didn't want to be there, didn't want them to be there, didn't want Mark to possibly give in and be like, yeah, we'll give you a ride.
Yeah.
Was like terrified, honestly.
Okay.
And when it was over, and it was maybe like 2 to 5 minutes altogether. Like, it was quick. And it was the worst thing. Don't want to do it again.
Yeah. I guess you answered your own question.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have anything else you'd like to share about it?
No. Shit's real. It's real.
Thank you for letting us interview you, and
Thanks.
I hope you don't. I hope you don't experience this.
I
again.
hope you don't experience
I
it
don't
ever.
ever want to experience that. It's kind of why I wanted to make this video, is to get the information out in case this is a real thing. People,
it's terrifying.
know.
I mean, everybody has things in their life that freak them out, that are like, I can't believe that happened. Like, really unbelievable things. So why wouldn't it be real?
Sure. Hey, you experienced it, and it's always like a friend of a friend knows. But here
Never.
I'm giving
Yeah.
an interview of a person who experienced this. So,
Yeah.
all right, thanks. Thanks so much for watching.
Bye, guys.
I know someone who said they've encountered shadow people in their house. Okay.
Okay, yes.
And I know people who said that they have encountered an alien.
Really?
And I know people who have said they have encountered a ghost.
I've encountered ghosts before.
Person who said they've been physically touched by a ghost or
I
whatever.
was physically touched by a couple ghosts.
And some things like that. So it's just, I don't know. Obviously, not everything is true. There's a lot of perception that could be false, and a lot of tricks that the mind can play on you or whatever. So
Sure.
taking that into account, though, but I mean, the amount of people that you hear having some level of encounter personally or what have you, and then knowing one personally is enough for me to say, obviously, there's more than just what the typical modern worldview is. You know what I mean? There's clearly something more, but it seems different for different people, and some people say they see shapeshifters, some people say they've seen literal vampires.
Wow.
Some people, and so obviously there's something going on, and I don't want to see none of that. I don't want to see none of that. Like, I'm okay not encountering none of that. That's fine. But I can't deny all those accounts and things like
Sure.
that. So the black-eyed children fit in as another apparition, another piece to the metaphysical preternatural worldview that I'm just saying there's a little bit too much smoke for there not to be fire.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
agreed.
But I have never seen one, or a man in black, or an alien, or any of that. So I don't know for sure, but I'm not going to discount what other people have emphatically stated that they have seen or experienced.
So as we were talking earlier, I said let's put a pin on that. Interesting to me is that they can't come into your home or to your vehicle without you allowing them in. To me, that comes across to me as something that it would be evil, and it's not that just because they're being polite. I feel like there's something more there, that it has to be welcomed in. You have a degree in religious studies.
Religious history, theology.
With that background in your studies, how long would you say you've had? Like 20 years of study?
From the time I was 21 to the time I was 32, 33, very dedicatedly, and then on and off since then.
How would you describe what these black-eyed children could be?
Well, before the Age of Enlightenment or the Scientific Revolution, the only thing that people had to compare them to was something demonic and spiritual. An extraterrestrial mindset didn't really exist because it was still a thought that we were in a snow globe of sorts, right? So there was the Earth, which was more or less flat, and then there was a firmament or a firm shell over our heads that had what we now call stars embedded in it, and then within that shell there is the sun and the moon that rotate. And so that was the worldview. So to say extraterrestrial or an alien to someone who lived before the scientific revolution and things like that wouldn't have made sense. So they only had the tools at their disposal to understand it in a good evil, in a religious sense.
Okay.
So that's how it informs me, that once we understood that there was more than what we were just seeing with the bare eye, and then we understood that we were surrounded by planets in a solar system that's surrounded by other stars, and et cetera. Now we have the verbiage to use, the understanding to say that there's something that doesn't originate necessarily from Earth out there, and so you can understand black-eyed children as that, which you and I are discussing right now. But that doesn't mean that there's not some sort of good, evil, spiritual, angelic, demonic type of back and forth going on. We can only understand it through the knowledge that we have at our disposal. So that's how my degree would inform me on what the black-eyed children are. However, this day and age, with the amount of scientific experiments and things that have taken place, with the way you can absolutely render a mind completely void of free will by chemical compositions and things of that nature, you can also attempt to understand the black-eyed children as some level of human experiment, right? You don't really have accounts before, according to this, the 1980s. Of black-eyed children. So if you want to say that it was something that was a post-runner to forgetting the experiments where they used LSD in the 60s and things like that.
Like the militaries?
Gosh, what is the name of it? Not fantastic. There's a name to it, and I know that someone who's even kind of schooled up will know what I'm talking about. But LSD in the 60s for mind control purposes and things like that. I'm just saying, this day and age, I don't see why it wouldn't be possible for black-eyed children to be failed experiments.
Okay.
Failed experiments of not always. The government's always a catch-all.
Yes.
You know, the government is not that good at shit. You know what I mean? They So somebody experimenting on human beings, and they could be a level of failed experiment or something of that nature, and they just release them into the wild.
So you think that they're like an actual physical being?
A human that's been tested on and.
But they disappear quickly and like appear quickly.
Oh, then that would indicate some level of spiritual being or something like that.
Yeah, but to me, they just come across as something that would be not of good nature.
Mm-hmm. If you are around something and you feel just completely uncomfortable and completely fearful, there's a part of you that your mind doesn't understand.
Sure.
So that's why something's flagging you. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's something there.
Sure.
One thing that I have experienced in my life is when you're in the presence of good, you generally know it.
Yes.
And when you're in the presence of something exceptionally good, you know it. When you're in the presence of something bad, you can kind of feel it. You know, when you're in the presence of something exceptionally evil, you feel it.
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean? So that being the case, if you're around something that's looks like a black-eyed child, and you're just terrified, just like abnormally, unjustifiably terrified.
Yeah.
It just is your internal, some people call it energy, your soul, your spirit, whatever is telling you something.
Instincts.
Yeah. A level of instinct.
Yeah.
So don't let them in.
Don't let them in.
And just go. Just go.
We want to wish you a happy Halloween, and thank you so much for subscribing to our channel. And if you're not a subscriber, hit the subscribe button. YouTube has algorithms and how they suggest our videos to people. The more comments we get and the more subscribers we get, the more YouTube's willing to suggest our videos. YouTube has also changed their agreement, people who post videos, and they can now go ahead and put commercials into your videos without you actually being monetized. So if you do ever come across commercials in our videos, it's not that we're making any money. We're not making a penny out of them as of this date, because we only have a few subscribers.
Yeah.
But YouTube has now been able to start making money off of people's videos, even if they're not monetized.
Imagine that. I'm not upset at someone making money. But at some
Well,
point,
I am if they're making it off of me, and they're putting their restrictions on. Like they upped it because it used to be if you had 100 subscribers you could monetize, and now it's like 1,000. That's why we're always asking you guys to make comments and also subscribe and share our videos. We would really appreciate it.
Yep.
But with that, we would wish you a happy Halloween
Yep.
and thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.
Good night.